for 20 years. So I think I'm a bit of a global citizen by now. And India is a huge part of my life. So for me, and this is the reason I live in Asia and continue to live in Asia and South Asia specifically, it's a very collectivist society. So people live in groups. In India, it's the same. We live in communities. We move in groups, and that's partly because of, there's such large populations. We eat in groups. We travel in groups, right? And when you've lived in Asia, or perhaps you've grown up in Asia, but when you've been here for a significant part of your life, when you go back to individualistic societies like Europe, it feels very cold. And I don't just mean the weather, just life feels cold, right? It feels like people are very separate from each other.
Here in India, we still have the luxury to have big brigades, right? In Europe, sometimes you find a restaurant with 80 covers, 90 covers, or whatever it is. They may have only 2 chefs. There will be you and the head chef and maybe 1 or 2 dishwashers in your kitchen brigade. That's it. A lot of people say, hey, chef, I want to go abroad. I sometimes tell them, I said, wait. Yeah? Wait until you're ready, until you can face anything without fear. Right? Now here, everybody's a little bit, I do this, I do that, Then later they go abroad, and after 1 week they come back to India and say, what happened?
Really?
Yeah, I had people like that. I said, what happened? Didn't work out. And why didn't it work out?
From Norway to India came quite natural for me because I've been coming to India for the last decade, several times a year, and a lot of my team is based out of India. A lot of my colleagues even in Norway are Indian, so it was kind of an instant integration, no culture shock. Work-wise, it's been a few learnings. I think I have more of an Indian perspective now. I see things from the offshore side much more, and I think it's been very insightful and very helpful, especially when we're trying to improve our way of work, our way of communication, and our way of delivery. One thing that I really love is how most Indians celebrate absolutely every holiday. So there's always a celebration, and it's done quite in a grand fashion. So I've never celebrated as much in the past as I've done this year carrying into. I think I'm naturally curious, so I think it's nice to celebrate, and I like how Indians go all in with the dress and everything. So I have my wardrobe full of Indian outfits now.
And how many are there?
At least 30.
That was my second book. It was a book that it came from my first book, actually. So it's a lot of the core substances from my first book, and I wanted to republish it, re-edit it, recreate it for the Indian market. So that's what I did. I found a publisher. We wrote it and edited it together from India. Phenomenal man in Mumbai. The publishers are 75 years old, so it's a family business. And it did really well. It sold nearly 2,000 copies when it launched. And I'm coming, as you know, in a couple of weeks, and we're going to do like another sort of official launch, even though it launched a few months ago. And it's nice. It's nice to have something that I can present to India as a gift to India, to prove that I'm serious about the work I do there, and just about the potential of India as a country. It's a phenomenal place. No, I've not lived in India, but I feel that my soul is from India. I often say to people, I'm just so comfortable in India and with Indian people. As I've built my own teams along this journey, they tend to be, they over-index on Indian teammates, Indian perspectives. Most of my friends, wherever I live in the world, seem to be Indian. I just have like a real resonance with the country. I find great peace there. I find great joy. I love many places. I love discovering cultures, but India has always been, as I said, in my soul somehow.
Like India now has fantastic suppliers who grow their own mushrooms around in farms or housings or wherever they grow them. Which is fantastic, which is great because you don't have to import. the whole stuff, right? You get organic ingredients, you get more salads, variety of salads. See, work culture here in India is as it is a little bit anywhere, you know. It's a more on the flexible side. India has adapted itself also to a fast-paced market, you know. So a lot of people actually gear up and take business seriously, you know. So I deal with a lot of vendors which are really serious and very, how you call this, professional.
Yeah. My new book comes out this summer. It's called The Connection Prescription. And that book contains many, many stories. I was editing it this morning, actually, and it has stories from India. My travel, the ability to live in other people's cultures and contexts has definitely helped me with how I unpack empathy, the work I do, the way I think I'm able to connect across audiences, whether I'm in India wearing a sari.
In this culinary landscape of India, as we discussed that, you know, more and more locals are traveling and then have global palate.
What I say, yeah, new restaurants are coming up.
Yeah.
And as you rightfully said, they look stunning, right? I mean, kudos to the interior designers.
Yes.
Like something works very well in that direction. There's a lot of new chefs who are coming up as well, who have been abroad, who now came back to India and who want to kind of maybe combine their experience abroad with the Indian cuisine.
Yeah.
Some have very, very good success. Some not as much, which is okay. See, for example, I travel a lot. I travel a lot. I look a lot at different restaurants, also here in India. And I see Indian restaurants, they become more progressive as well. Beautifully progressive.
And is that any different than Norway and India? I know the company is the same, but is it any different?
I am not sure. I can't speak for all of India, but from my experience, when it comes to especially gender equality, my impression is that it's come very far in India in the workplace. When it comes to ethnic diversity, I would say there's probably less of it in India as compared to Norway, where we've had a lot more immigration. I don't think you can compare it.
How would you describe India's cultural landscape to today in terms of LGBTQ plus friendliness, both inside and outside corporate spaces?
I would say that I'm impressed, especially in the large corporates. And the ones that I've worked with, which are some of the largest IT companies in India. And there's a policy, there is a framework, and there's also very much intent. So I'm impressed. I think India has come very far when it comes to doing the right things, having the right policies in place.
And until you really spend time with Indians, understanding, the history of that, the size of the population, the reality of the mindset of children that grow up in India and go through the university system, you will never fully understand why that pressure exists. So empathetic leadership looks like listening, really active, intentional listening, where you're listening to gather insight and not to respond, but to understand. And of course, everywhere you go, India included, has its own business culture. Yeah. It takes time. It does take time. I've been working with Indian business people for maybe 20 years now, but I remember in the beginning, it is very different, right? When you really work in Indian businesses with Indian people versus meeting Indians in other countries, it is culturally very different. If you go into a big meeting room in India with many people, there's a lot of noise in an Indian meeting room, right? There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of what you could understand as arguing. They're not arguing, but you wouldn't necessarily know that when you're very new. There's a lot of hierarchies. There's a lot of unsaid things. There's a lot of things that are said like this, but they actually mean that, right? So You have to learn those things. I learned them a very long time ago, but I think it makes it a very unique place to do business. But I think also Indian people are uniquely hospitable people. Wherever I go, people constantly invite me to meet their parents. I love that. They're like, Mimi, you must come and meet my parents. I'm like, sure. So yeah, it's a phenomenal place.